call this study session to order to review the 2022-2023 preliminary general fund forecast and budget. Tony, can we have a roll call, please?
Jimenez, Perales, Cohen,
Here.
Carrasco,
Here.
Davis,
Here.
Esparza, Arenas,
Here.
Foley,
Here.
Mahan,
Here.
Jones,
Present.
Locardo. Thank you. You have a quorum.
Thank you. So I will now hand it over to staff to provide the presentation.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor Jones. This is Jennifer McGuire, City Manager. And good morning to all of our mayor and city, I know our mayor's coming, to our city council and to our community and staff. We are happy to come before you today to talk about the upcoming 22-23 budget development process, specifically focusing on the general fund. With City Council's approval of the Mayor's June budget message for fiscal year 2021-22, a recommendation from Councilmember Mahan was approved that directed the administration to engage with the City Council on potential improvements of the alignment of the budget planning process to measurable performance targets, including the level, quality, and equitability of city core services. We very much appreciate the opportunity to talk about the link between the budget and city services, especially since our budget documents contain a significant amount of information on those topics, which can be overwhelming given the size of our documents. To make sure there's a common understanding of the various roles and responsibilities in developing the budget, we will start with an overview of the various city charter requirements and City Council approved budget policies, principles, and practices. Since it is also important to understand the city's budget from a historical perspective, we will spend some time understanding the scale and strategies the city employed to weather our past budgetary struggles. By doing so, this will help us understand the service levels we have today and the difficulty of making large-scale budgetary changes, as those are directly related to the budgetary challenges we have overcome in the past. We will then take an early look at the preliminary forecast for 2022-23 to see what challenges and opportunities lie ahead. One of the key areas we want to highlight is the imbalance between our ongoing revenues and the large number of programs and services that have either been funded on a one-time basis in the general fund for a number of years, or those community and economic recovery work streams funded by the American Rescue Plans. While not officially part of our ongoing general fund-based budget, many of these programs are extremely important to the City Council and community, as well as the administration. And if we did not continue these items into next year's budget, we suspect it would very much feel like an ongoing service reduction to the community. As a result, we really want to think critically about the ways we can try to continue the most important of these programs while still being mindful that we need to return the city to a structurally balanced budget. With this grounding, we can walk through some of the key elements of our operating budget document that links together city service areas, core services, and programs, their relationship to budget allocations and performance measures, and we can explore an example of how a significant reallocation of existing resources from one area of the city's budget to another area to address an important service underperformance would also require significant service impacts in other important areas. Finally, we will outline the steps the administration has taken so far for the 2022-23 budget development process in advance of the policy direction that will be provided by the City Council's approval of the Mayor's March budget message for next year. These steps include my preliminary December direction to the departments on their budget submittals, the work we've been continuing to further embed the explicit consideration of equity in the budget development process, and our commitment to provide new ways to link recommended budget investments with performance outcomes within the city manager's proposed budget document, as well as during the May budget study sessions. I really want to thank Jim Shannon, our director of our city manager's budget office, and the budget office team who spent many hours putting together this very comprehensive presentation for your review, consideration, and discussion today. I'll now turn it over to Jim Shannon to start the presentation.
Thanks, Jennifer. Good morning, all. Happy to be with you here to talk budget for the next little bit. I'm joined here by Bonnie, our assistant director, and Claudia, our deputy director, and we will attempt to get this through you to get some good information out there. Go through here. So our agenda here is pretty much as follows and outlines the remarks that Jennifer just had there. So we'll take us kind of through for a while here before we can get to public comment. But we'll start off with an overview of sort of the roles and responsibilities that we are guided by for our budget development process, starting out at the city charter requirement level, where they have, the charter requirements outlines roles and responsibilities for both the mayor, the city council, and the administration. So for the mayor, delivering and this is not all of the things that are in the city charter related to the budget. This is just really kind of about the budget development process. So just kind of want to hone in on a few key elements. So for the mayor, delivering that March budget message to the city council that includes a statement of fiscal priorities for the following fiscal year, which departments, offices, or agencies the mayor proposes to be expanded or receive budget reductions, and specific recommendations concerning any proposed additions to or deletions from the budget. The city council then holds a public hearing to consider the mayor's budget message and make any revision or changes they deem advisable. The city council will also, once the city manager releases it, reviews and approves the proposed budget. And from the city manager side, we submit a budget request to the mayor and council. That's actually part of our 5-year forecast document that we released at the end of February. It's the meat of it is our budget balancing strategy guidelines. And we also then submit a balanced budget for the activities of the city for the next fiscal year, reflecting those recommendations and priorities that have been included in the March message and then approved by council. And we release all that budget document at the beginning of May. Then move from the charter to city council approved policies. And we have city council policy 1-18. Again, this is another policy that has a lot of things in it relating sort of our fiscal management and budgetary management, but picking out a few key elements here, it does require the use of a performance-based budget, specifying budgets at the core service level that correspond with specific performance targets, and wanting to maintain fiscal integrity of our operating, debt service, and capital improvement budgets. A few highlights here. Again, this alignment that we've talked about a lot about ongoing, aligning ongoing costs with ongoing revenues to pay for those costs. Interfund loans should not be used as a funding mechanism to address ongoing shortfalls. And if a new program is added on an ongoing basis, we should be adding ongoing revenue source or identify an ongoing revenue source to pay for those costs. And then any carryover of money left over from the previous fiscal year should only be used really for one-time purposes in the next year. And then moving on to some budget principles that were approved by City Council in 2008, and that is continues to guide us and provide some good practice. This has also been included in all of our forecast documents that we release as exhibits. Again, a few highlights. It identifies the mission of the city to provide some quality services, facilities, and opportunities that create and sustain and enhance a safe, livable, and vibrant community for its diverse residents, businesses, and visitors. These were approved during probably some of our most difficult budgetary times, and was really focused on achieving and maintaining a structurally balanced general fund budget. Partial listing of is below, wanting to consider that annual budget as part of the 5-year projections and to align, again, ongoing costs with ongoing revenues. If a structural imbalance does occur, we need to put together a plan to bring it back into structural balance. We should only be using one-time resources for one-time things, not for new ongoing operating expenses. Negotiations for employee compensation considers the budgetary position, revenue growth, and changes in cost of living, and that fees and charges should be fully cost recovery where possible. For the city manager, as I talked earlier, the charter requires the city manager to issue a budget request, and we have that request as part of the 5-year forecast document that's released at the end of February. That document, obviously talks about, does the general fund have a surplus or a shortfall when we look at our ongoing revenues and ongoing expenditures, but it does include that budget request, and importantly, the budget balancing strategy guidelines, which is a page of principles that allow us to provide some, recommend some good approaches, general approaches to achieving a balanced budget. Those guidelines are incorporated into the March budget message typically and subject to city council modification and approval. And the draft guidelines for 22-23 were included in Jennifer's direction to the departments in their initial development of the 22-23 budget. I'm just pulling out some highlights here, but developing a budget that balances the city's most essential services with available resources, considered in context of our long-term service delivery priorities, posing explicit questions of equity about who benefits and who is burdened and how we achieve a balanced budget. As we remain committed to balancing ongoing expenditures with ongoing revenues over the longer term, use a combination of ongoing and one-time solutions to achieve a structurally balanced budget over a 2 to 3 year period to try to get us back into structural alignment, really looking at those items that are funded on a one-time basis in 21-22 and some of those community and economic recovery work streams currently budgeted in the American Rescue Plan Fund, evaluating program budgets to identify some opportunities and shift resources where appropriate to meet city council approved roadmap items, respond to other direction and organizational risks. Always be looking at some alternative service delivery models and policy changes to improve service outcomes and efficiency, and ensure that our residents and businesses are educated, engaged, and have the opportunity to provide feedback during the city's annual budget. Then we have our roadmap, which is a relatively newer feature. This is first formally implemented in 2021, and it's a tool, as you all know, that lists the city's most important programs, strategies, and policies to enact significant organizational change. A lot of times these have a shorter horizon and focus. They're approved by the council to help focus our work, and also informs the budget development process to try to ensure as much as we can that sufficient resources are in place to achieve those roadmap direct objectives. And then here is the last formally approved city council roadmap. We will be coming forward to you later in fiscal year to update this. And kind of putting it all together is our budget development calendar. We've got a more detailed list of this in the budget document itself, but kind of provides a nice little summary here of the swim lanes for the community, the mayor and council, and the administration. And looking at the October, December time period is where the community, and actually it's the community from October through March, really providing input on budget priorities and direction through direct contact with mayor and council. We have our community-wide surveys, meetings, March budget message, public hearings. There's also the mayor's budget town hall to assess community interest and input. When we get to the mayor and council flow stream, they start off in October by reviewing the prior year's annual report, and then after that, we sort of start, looking on to the rest of the current budget year and the next budget year. In January through March, we have the mayor's budget town hall, some priority setting and roadmap approval, and of course, very importantly, review and approval of the March budget message. And on the administration side, after we present that annual report, we get to work on trying to figure out what our preliminary general fund forecast is. We have our official one that comes out in February, but we want to have a good idea by December so we can provide at least some preliminary direction to departments to get ready for the upcoming process in advance of the March budget message. At the end of February, we will then release that official forecast and our budget request. When we get finally to April and June, April, we're in production month on putting the budget out. May, the budgets get released. And we have a number of community budget meetings on it, some public hearings. There are budget study sessions. There are some budget, obviously we have some city council budget documents. We release some manager's budget addenda. So that proposed budget gets modified and tweaked and ultimately eventually approved with the approval of the mayor's June budget message. So that's kind of setting the context of how our process works, what the roles and responsibilities are. And now we wanted to take a little bit of a look back because it's really important to see where we've been because to understand where we are. I'm just going to catch up my notes here before I get too far ahead of myself. Where are we on page 13? All right. When we look back over sort of a 20-year horizon, it's a shockingly long look, but it really informs us about what has gone on. So we've definitely weathered some recession. So in looking at our two biggest economically sensitive revenues, our sales tax and our property tax, As those go, so does the general fund. We had the dot-com bust and we had the Great Recession. Most significantly, the Great Recession also impacted property tax. In fact, that property tax went down, which property tax had not gone down really in the post-World War II era. It grows less, but it going down was a sort of shocking change, which was really a difficult challenge for us to overcome. The good news is that the revenue has certainly gone back up, right? So we have definitely seen an increase in the revenues from what we experienced in our past recessions. But our challenge is, and I know council knows this, is that our revenue per capita is, relatively low when we look at some of our peers and in the state. And that is sort of due to, the past development history of San Jose, where we have an imbalance of housing and jobs. And so I know we're trying as part of our future development strategies to make sure we have that good mix of jobs and housing. But as we have a higher proportion of housing in San Jose than compared to most other big cities and our peers, the revenue per capita is lower. And so we can see here that when we just look at sales tax, we see San Jose here at about $151 per resident for sales tax. That also carries over into our property tax per capita. We see we're at $272 compared to some of our peers here. So definitely one of the challenges that we've been struggling with and working on it and at the front of our minds when we are looking at the future development of the city and trying to strike that balance between jobs and housing. On the cost side, this is a chart that we've talked about before, but during the Great Recession, we also had some significant challenges with our pension systems. Over a 20-year span, we went from $46 million in the general fund contributing to the retirement system to $350 million in 2021. And just as importantly, we went from about 6.5% of the general fund to 22% of the general fund. So that's a lot of capacity that is not available for services. And this spike here that we see, occurred when we were having the Great Recession. So we had decreasing revenues and increasing costs, and that was a really challenging time for the city. That's why we had several ballot measures related to changing of our retirement system. We had compensation reduction. We had a lot of things that we had to do here sort of to right the ship. The good news is that we did a lot of that hard work and we were able to stabilize the cost structure. The bad news is that it's been remained at a relatively high level. So that's been part of our challenge. Even though we've stabilized, we haven't really been able to get any capacity back, although that may be changing, as we'll talk about later. We also were impacted by a couple of other major factors. So over the course of the years, the state has enacted a number of revenue takeaways that city has struggled at one point. That was about a $50 million annual reduction in revenues that we had to deal with. We also had in the early part of the 2000s, had a number of bond measures which were really important to renew and construct some new city facilities for parks, fire stations, police facilities, libraries, which was great, absolutely needed, but then those new facilities required cost to operate and maintain. So that was a cost pressure, particularly on the general fund. And when we see all that together, sort of the revenue issues and the cost pressures, we can see the challenges that we've had to overcome. So even when you throw in the impacts from the pandemic, we've had to resolve general fund ongoing shortfalls exceeding $800 million. And it's been a challenge, and that's why we have all of these policies in place to try to make sure that we maintain a structurally balanced budget, because we got to here, and this was a lot of hard-won effort to get to sort of a more stabilized budgetary place. And so we need to keep that in mind, as we'll talk about later, as we go forward in our budget development process. But now I want to turn over to Bonnie to talk about how we were able to right the ship and what some of the impacts were. Bonnie.
Thanks, Jim. So this chart here shows the number of budgeted positions that we've had from 2001, 2002 through 2021, 22. So it's a 20-year span that shows all of our positions that have been budgeted. I want to note that this reflects all funded positions, meaning that it includes general funded positions, special funded positions, and also capital funded positions. To mitigate impacts, impacts of the staffing reductions, They were offset through contracting out of services, public-private partnerships, and new technology investments to improve efficiency. However, this does provide a good illustration of how our organization has been impacted. You can see that in 2001, 2002, that's when we had our peak staffing levels at over 7,000 budgeted positions. And at that time, we had a population, the city had a population of about 895,000 residents. While in 2021-22, our most recent fiscal year, we had budgeted positions at 6,647 with a population of over 1 million. So at our lowest, we were down about 2,000 positions in 2011, 2012. That's during the Great Recession. And then you could see that we slowly started adding positions back into the organization and started going back up. And then things got interrupted by the pandemic in 2020, 2021. So today we are about 830 positions fewer than we were 20 years ago, even though the population of San Jose has grown by 15%. Next slide, Jim. So this shows here, this chart here shows when the city is faced with having to reduce our budget, it's important to know what we can cut from our budget. So the budget is broken down by discretionary and non-discretionary. Much of the city's expense is non-discretionary, which is at 43%, and that cannot feasibly be immediately reduced. When faced with a shortfall and a need to achieve a balanced budget, the city can only reduce discretionary expenditures. However, as discretionary expenditures are reduced, it has made budget reductions even more difficult to achieve in years past. We can only cut discretionary expenditures, of which for 2020, 2021, which was the last time we did this analysis, is approximately 57% of our base budget. So we'll go through the non-discretionary expenditures here. So the gray part of this chart, so 20% of our costs are related to UAL and OPEB retirement contributions. So the UAL is our unfunded actual liability. So that's the projection of our total current and expected future retirement benefits of the city. And then OPEB, which is other post-employment benefits, which is also known as a retiree health care plan. Those are obligations that the city must fund. The other gray part of this pie here, the 23% of the other non-discretionary revenue offset expenses, are services that the city must fund and can't cut. So things like electricity costs of our traffic signals, items that are mandated, such as our workers' compensation costs, or expenditures that supports our city, our maintenance of efforts. So the city has to prove that we have enough expenditures for the maintenance of efforts to meet our maintenance of efforts as a requirement for the city to receive the state gas tax revenues. Or items that are offset by revenues, such as our code enforcement fee programs. That's the solid waste enforcement program, multiple housing inspections, and then our parks, recs, and neighborhood services fee activities. Next slide, Jim. So to resolve the shortfalls, the city has implemented numerous cost-saving strategies, approved several revenue measures, and then still had to enact some painful service reductions. To bring the general fund into structural balance, the City Council did approve a general fund structural deficit elimination plan back in 2008, and then a fiscal reform plan in 2011. Some of the cost reductions included were wage freezes and reductions, pension reform, outsourcing and public-private partnerships, new technology deployment, and civilization of sworn functions to lower costs. Some of the voter-approved revenue increases included increasing the carbon business tax rate and allowing tables in June 2010. Additional adjustments to this measure was included in November 2020. Established the marijuana business tax in November 2010. We increased we did a 0.25% sales tax increase in June 2016. Also did a business tax modernization in November 2016, and then approved the real property transfer tax in March 2020. So here lists some of the service reductions that that the city had implemented. Not going to go through the entire thing, but I just want to highlight some of the big ones. And it's a wide range of reductions that we've done that across all service areas. One big one to note is we did reduce police field patrol in special operations and investigative services. We did reduce fire apparatus staffing in fire companies, and we did have to reduce community centers. We did reduce parks maintenance staffing. There were some reductions to general code enforcement staffing. We did reduce traffic maintenance. And then we did shift the responsibility of sidewalk repairs and street tree services to property owners. Next slide, Jim. Okay. So during the relatively stable period between 2012, 2013 and 2019, 2020, the city was able to solidify its fiscal resiliency, but service restoration was very limited. The focus was on direct service restoration although we did focus on preserving community-facing services to the extent possible, cuts to the back of the house and strategic support also had a cascading effect on direct service delivery. So the need, when we started restoring services, we did need to take a balanced approach. Some of the examples of the limited restorations that we did implement were library branch hours returning to 6 days per week, the elimination of fire station brownouts, small addition of budgeted police sworn staff, did modest increases to recreation and community services, and then increases to parks maintenance staffing.
All right. Thank you, Bonnie. Appreciate that. I know that Bonnie and Claudia both lived that back when Jennifer was the budget director. So I know those were difficult challenges you guys all went through there. So thank you for reliving that with us. We look back and now we can look ahead a little bit and see what were some preliminary look at the general fund for 22-23. Again, this is a pretty preliminary look. We'll come out with a more official and a more detailed analysis as part of our February forecast in a couple of months once we get some more data, but we definitely have an idea of where we are heading. And we start with 21-22 because sort of how the current fiscal year ends kind of informs us how the next year may grow or change. The really good news is that many areas of economic activity have picked up and recovered. Revenues are tracking to meet or exceed the budget estimate in a lot of categories, even in our big ones, which is really good news. So the sales tax surge that we experienced in April through June, we talked about when we approved the annual report, has continued so far in July through September. We expect it will also be strong in October through December. We don't have that data yet. We get that data in February, but we expect that to be pretty good. We expect the year-over-year growth in the second half of this fiscal year to moderate, mostly because we had already started our recovery in the second half of last fiscal year, so we don't expect the same level of growth. Omicron will probably also dampen it to a little extent here, but it's still solid. So that's good news there. Continue to experience that strong residential and commercial property sales, both in price and volume. You all remember we had maybe that sort of really steep drop off of sales at the start of the pandemic, which really had all of us really worried. Prices, as you can see here from the solid black line, never really wavered too much, and volume has really picked up. And we've seen that, even seen a lot on the commercial side, as if you're following the news, a lot of commercial property transactions, which is good news also for our Measure E, real property transfer tax. And card rooms have resumed normal operations in 21-22. Those were mostly, well, they were heavily impacted last year, and our utility related revenues remain solid. So a lot of good news for 21-22. We do have a few headwinds though that we need to keep an eye on. The pandemic is not over, still with us. It's been a real challenge. It's been a struggle for our community. So we do expect Omicron variant to have some dampening effect, but we're not trying to quantify what that is. That's trying to quantify the exact impact of COVID on businesses has not been successful for anybody who's tried. But we just need to keep that in our minds as we're sort of putting our forecast together, our official forecast for next fiscal year. There are a few revenue categories that are going to take longer to recover. One of them is the Transient Occupancy Tax, our TOT collections. Those, they're getting a little better, they're still a little bit below where we had projected them to be. And will probably be a little bit more negative about their recovery over the 5-year forecast. So those are well below where the pre-pandemic times were, which is not a huge item in the general fund in terms of a percentage, but that is going to impact the resources we have available to support our convention and cultural operations and our cultural arts community. So we need to think about that as part of the budget development process. And we also have pretty significantly lower levels of our PRNS fee activity levels. It's not necessarily a 1-for-1 service reduction. So just because we're not collecting fees doesn't mean we don't have costs for some of those items. So that is, one of the places that will probably take longer to recovery because the pandemic really more specifically impacts some of those operations. And I do want to note here that, we were recently informed by the state that a portion of the city's previous and current tax revenues could be significantly lower. We dispute that and we'll appeal the state's initial determination. The consequence of that will be the general fund outlook is negatively impacted. So we do need to take measures to sort of protect ourselves. So we're not going to change our revenue forecast and the revenue. We're still going to be receiving that revenue as the appeals process proceeds, but we do need to set aside the ongoing amount, and we'll do that as part of our 21-22 budget, mid-year budget review that we'll release at the end of this month. And we will set aside that in an ongoing reserve as part of our 22-23 budget development process. But the general sort of forecast that we're talking about is inclusive of those set aside. So that's part of our thinking as we go forward. For 22-23, we do expect revenue growth to moderate. We don't expect growing at these really high levels, but we do expect that levels to remain strong. So our real estate market for the current calendar year that just ended will translate into solid growth for property tax revenues for 22-23. We do, though, want to keep an eye. There's a segment of property tax called the Educational Revenue Augmentation Fund. That calculation, I've been talking about this for a couple of years now. The calculation was revised. We thought it was going to be a little bit worse than it ended up being, which is good news. The bad news is that the new calculation is being challenged by some of the school districts. So we're still receiving all of the revenue, but we need to sort of keep an eye on that because that allocation could change in future years. The pandemic is probably going to linger with us, and there'll probably be some associated impacts. They'll probably be limited really to a few areas of the city's revenue categories like hotel-related taxes and fee revenue. Preliminarily, although we don't have any official projections yet, we do expect economic growth to continue into the out years. So those are all good news items. What's really also so new, and I know we talked about this at the retirement study session, but just want to get into it just a little bit more here because it does have a pretty big impact on the forecast, is the investment returns that we had in both federated and the police and fire retirement systems will make big impacts on future retirement contributions. So both of them had returns of over 25% for last fiscal year. That's really good news. Both retirement boards left the assumed rate of return at 6 5/8%. While we still have a really big unfunded actuarial liability, what is new is that instead of year-over-year increases to retirement contributions, the forecast is flipped, and we're now looking at projections to start decreasing year over year. And wanted to show that using an example of the police and fire system, since that's primarily in the general fund. It's not quite this dramatic in federated because federated was a less well-funded plan, and federated is about 40% in the general fund, so maybe not as useful. But so this is a nice illustration for our purposes here today. And looking at this chart here, this is from the board's actuary Chiron in their presentation on January 6th, and it had what the valuation was from 1920 and what those contributions were going to be from city and members. And then the bars are now what the revised contributions are from an actuarial basis. And so you can see this white space here is essentially extra capacity that we, if everything goes according to plan, and we continue to, and assuming that future years average 6 5/8%, we have extra capacity than we otherwise were projecting, or that the actuary was projecting in 1920. So that's really good news. I think these plans are still, they're not, they're on the way to being better funded. There's still some concerns out there. Past returns don't necessarily mimic future results, but and I think that on an actuarial basis, we're still a little bit short of our 80% funded status for police and fire. But unequivocally, this is good news for the city. We haven't really experienced both revenue growth and decreasing retirement costs in a really long time. So objectively, that's good news. Unfortunately, we still have a structural shortfall. And that's because of all these one-time items in the American Rescue Plan Fund. So if we were just to look at what is officially funded in the general fund on an ongoing basis and compare that to our ongoing revenues, we're probably about balanced. Again, that's good news because we used some one-time funding to balance the 21-22 budget. So if everything would have been as projected a year ago, we would have had a $28 million shortfall. So that's, we think that's mostly gone. And because retirement costs are estimated to decrease in the out years, the forecast is expected to improve over time. Also good news. The big but though is that when we are looking at 22-23, we've got a lot of resources in the current budget year that are funded in the general fund on a one-time basis, and they've been funded that way for multiple years. And we've got some community and economic recovery initiatives funded in the American Rescue Plan Fund, all really important. And when we think about those, because we know those just can't go away without consequences, and a lot of those are really, should be considered as ongoing services, not really one-time services, but ongoing. We really face a structural shortfall, and wanted to just highlight that here, because bringing us back into structural balance is going to require some pretty, careful analysis and tough decision making. But those items that have been funded in the general fund on a one-time basis, they exceed $20 million, and I give some examples here in alphabetical order, like the portions of the Beautify Landscape Maintenance Program, our Climate Smart implementation, our Foot Patrol programs, our Park Capital Infrastructure Team. We have a Sworn Hire Ahead program that's helped us limit the impact of vacancies in the police department. Our Project Hope, portion of it is ongoing, portion of it is one time. The restoration of library branch hours that we did last year was on a one-time basis. So all these, are pretty much ongoing services that are funded on a one-time basis. So we need to deal with that. Similarly, on the American Rescue Plan Fund side, the total budget allocated in 21-22 for services is $105 million. Now, not all of that we would consider sort of on an ongoing basis, but a good chunk of that is. And so things like the Beautify San Jose Consolidated Model, our increased investments in child and youth services, our SOAR program, Resilience Corps, Abierto/Viva Calle, San Jose Bridge, are some support of small business grants, and our the need to continue to supplement arts and cultural grant funding, especially given what TOT is doing. Those are all going to be pressures that we need to think about as part of our 22-23 budget process. And so then, we kind of got that history. And so the forecast, wanted to just take a second and have Claudia walk us through a little bit about our budget, how the budget is structured, and how we're structured from on performance measures and a dollar basis for CSAs, core services, and programs. Claude.
Good morning. As directed in City Council Policy 1-18, the city maintains a performance-based budget that contains a wide range of financial and service level data. The city's operating budget is organized by city service area, which we fondly call city CSAs, which are made up of multiple departments and or portions of departments, core services, which are unique to departments, and programs, which are also unique to departments. CSA and core service data include performance outcomes, activity and workload highlights, expenses, and position allocations, whereas programs include expenses and position allocations. We can understand a great deal about the city's budget and services because of the way the budget document is structured. The document gives us the ability to create a link between functional responsibility, costs, and performances. Each CSA is accompanied by key dashboard measures, as well as other outcome and budget data. Let's take a look at our largest CSA, which is public safety. On the right-hand side, there's a snapshot of the CSA's budget summary, which shows the total CSA budget and its breakdown by department and core services. So for public safety, it has a budget of $824 million across all funds, of which $818 million is in the general fund, or 52% of the general fund budget. On the left-hand side, this is an example of performance measures on the CSA dashboard. Here we highlight our priority 1 and priority 2 response times for police and fire. As you can see, police is below target for priority 1 and 2, while fire is below target for priority 1. In the next slide, we can zoom in on a particular core service in the public safety CSA. Police's respond to calls for services and patrol support, a key response time driver. We have core service performance measures on the left-hand side and activity and workload highlights on the right-hand side. The performance measures provide us data for what the core service does and how well it does. So for example, on the left-hand side, the first performance measure is % of 911 calls that are answered within 15 seconds. You can see 3 years data. The first year will show the performance for the prior year. And then the next 2 columns in the middle will show what the target is for the current year and how the department estimates it will perform for this measure. And then in the last column, it's a target for the upcoming fiscal year. In the next slide, now we can see how much the core service costs, the budget programs in the core service, and how staffing is allocated in each program. So for the respond to calls for service and patrol support in the police department, it has a budget of $316 million for this year, and it's 38% of the public safety CSA budget. Note that field patrol is the largest component of this core service. It has a budget of $226 million. It's 72% of this core services budget, and it's overall it's 27% of the public safety CSA budget. In the next slide, here's another example using the neighborhood services CSA. This CSA has a budget of $241 million across all funds, of which $172 million is in the general fund, and this CSA is 11% of the general fund budget. We can also zoom in on performance measures, such as a measure for the Parks Maintenance and Operations Core Service, and see the Parks Condition Assessment for the last 6 years. It's that diagram that's right in the middle with the columns. On the next slide, if you want to know more about the Parks Maintenance and Operations Core Service, you can find the budget and performance data for this core service in the budget document. In this example, you can see that Parks Maintenance and Operations has a $50 million budget for this year, and it's 38% of the Neighborhood Services CSA budget. Within this core service, there are various programs that are listed on the right-hand side. The Neighborhood Parks and Regional Parks program is the largest one in this core service. It has a budget of $30 million for this year. It's 60% of this core services budget, and overall, it's 12% of the Neighborhood Services CSA budget. On the left-hand side of this slide, it also shows the corresponding performance measure data for this core service. In the next slide, we want to highlight our newest core service, which is PRNS's Community Services, which houses the new program Illegal Dumping and Homeless Encampment Trash Collection and Abatement Services, which is part of the Beautify San Jose model, and existing programs like anti-graffiti and anti-litter, and youth gang and prevention and intervention. As you can see, this core service has a $25 million budget for 21-22, and it's 10% of the Neighborhood Services CSA budget. Within this core service, I wanted to highlight the Youth Gang Prevention Intervention Program. It has a budget of $10 million. It's 44% of the Community Service Core Service budget, and it's 5% of the Neighborhood Services CSA budget. On the right-hand side is a snapshot of the performance measures for this core service, such as the new performance measures for the trash pickup at for trash pickups at encampments. Jim?
Jim, you're on mute.
You're on mute.
I knew I was going to do that. I'm like, take yourself off mute. Didn't do it. So now that we've got a little bit of grounding there for our budget and sort of the performance and budget level sort of linked together there, I wanted to talk through a little bit of the usefulness of that. So first I wanted to say though that the continued evaluation of service delivery effectiveness, that's integral part of our budget process. But because of where we've been, it makes it really difficult to drive significant change without significant trade-offs unless we're adding a lot of new resources. We talked about, we had the high cost burden, the relatively low revenue per capita. And because of that, we had to eliminate or scale back a lot of services in the aftermath of the dot-com bust and the Great Recession. We can see that in some of our performance measures. We highlight the priority one response time because that's sort of an obvious one, and one that everybody can understand. When we had that stabilizing period right before the pandemic from 12-13 to 19-20, we were all together focused on stabilizing our service delivery, only able to make some very limited restorations with the guidance and direction of the city council approved March and June budget messages, mostly to correct gaps or corrected problems. The lack of ongoing funding, makes large scale service restoration to get back to where we were really difficult, especially when we consider some of these potential trade-offs. And again, just to use a straightforward example as we can, which is always tricky when we span a long period of time. But I think the police department data provides, a nice example of some of the trade-offs to get back to what might be an obvious service level. And so we start here in 2007, 2008, and we look at emergency response calls, average response time for priority one calls, and some budgeted staffing. And we start in 2007, 2008, because that's the earliest I could go back reasonably and with the police department to get budgeted sworn field patrol staffing. I wanted to go back to 2000, 2001, because we have response time data for that, but we don't have good budgeted FTE positions at that program level going that far back. So we start in 2007, 2008, which is, and then the years subsequent right after 07, 08, like 09, 10, and 11, they look pretty similar in terms of response times before they start to creep up. So I think it's a good illustration. We also, note that the methodology for determining our average response time changed a little bit between, it changed in 18-19. So it's not exactly an apples to apples comparison, but if we were using the old methodology for 2021, it's likely this response time is probably a little bit higher. So the discrepancy between old and then and now would probably be a little bit greater. So I think it's still a good example. And what you can see here is, this isn't new information, and we're not just it's interesting to see it all in one place because it is pretty dramatic. But the calls that we had received in 2007, 2008, and coming to 2021 are a lot more. Our response time is higher, and our budgeted staffing is down both at a field patrols, the sworn field patrol levels, as well as our overall budgeted sworn FTE. So, again, we've been talking about this for a number of years, one of our key performance metrics. So this is just, table really just illustrates that. For reference, and as a rule of thumb, this is not a recommendation. This isn't a detailed analysis. This is more using sort of rules of thumb about how the ratio of sworn staff positions for officers, sergeants, and lieutenants. If you just wanted to get back to the same level of budgeted sworn staffing, that would be about a $49 million investment level. Again, just for purposes of illustration. And even if you got back to that level, the call volume is a lot higher, right? So it's not like we would, even if you get back to that level, our service demand has grown over time, even though our overall resource availability has shrunk. So even if we got back to the same level of resources, it's probably not going to match proportionally the increase in demand. And to see what those trade-offs and examples of the again, not a recommendation, so I want to be very careful. So we wanted just to use the budget document to help inform, what the trade-offs would look like or could look like, or get a sense of what those trade-offs would be if you're looking at other core services in the general fund. And so if we had to restore $49 million and take it from somewhere else, there's no really easy way or even moderately difficult way. They're all hard ways. And so the core service budget here is just to show that, the entire general fund core service budget for PRNS's parks, maintenance, and operations is $47 million. Our biggest core service in library is $30 million. Recreation services is $29 million. Traffic maintenance is $14 million, right? So a lot of, really important core services are less than that cost to restore that sworn staffing to that level it was in 7-8. So, getting it, doing everything in one fell swoop in a year or two would be really, really difficult and really painful and have a lot of trade-offs. So for an organization that has managed through all these difficult budget years, there's just no room for significant cost cutting without service impacts. And that's really why when we put forward our recommendation for, and was directed by the mayor's budget message, was, hey, we need to bridge ourselves through because we keep cutting services too much. We're going to cut services too deeply in times of a pandemic when folks need it. So we came forward with a balanced mix, or, this 21-22 is actually a little bit unbalanced. We had only reduced a little bit on an ongoing basis and used a pretty big chunk of one-time services to try to bridge us through to hopefully get to better times where we could bring the budget back into structural alignment. And so, and that's the good news. That's kind of, we're starting to get there. It's also interesting to think when we think about priorities and, and levels of investment. This is a little bit of a sneak peek for the auditor's annual services report that council will hear, I think, on January 25th. But this is from our most recent community survey. And it's interesting that our top 4 resident priorities for improvements align pretty closely with our most recent significant investments. So addressing homelessness issues, affordable housing, improving public safety and reducing crime, and beautifying the city and landscaping. Measure B was that local sales tax that we approved in 2016, although that just goes into the general fund. What did help stabilize them with the staffing in the police department and was able to increase some staffing levels. Measure E, of course, again, is another general fund revenue measure, but it's allocated for homelessness prevention and affordable housing uses. And a lot of the key priorities that have been directed in the March and June messages have been centered around Beautify San Jose and beautification of the city since the 2017 era, which continue into the current year, especially with the Beautify consolidated model. So pretty interesting close alignment with where our levels of investment have been, but where residents are still seeing that they would like improvements made. And those improvements are also, again, in line with the 21-22 city roadmap. So we're seeing some pretty close alignment in a lot of areas. When the roadmap items are completed, in an ideal scenario, or for many of them, the resulting service and policy changes would then be incorporated into the city's base budget and then kind of, kept on and measured as part of our normal CSA and core service measures. Of course, we are developing and have OKRs, or objectives and key results, for the individual initiatives in the city roadmap. But once the new service levels are established, they get folded into the city's other budget and performance measures. We are engaging in a sort of a 3-year update and reevaluation of performance measures to have a more explicit focus on equity. We have an internal annual process that always looks at, reviews, and tweaks the CSAs and core service performance and activity measures, but we haven't had a comprehensive overhaul really since their initial establishment. So the time is definitely right. A lot of our measures do not contain disaggregated data, which limits our ability to see how the services impact different communities differently, especially by race, which is really important to understand trade-offs. So we are currently piloting an effort with a few departments to more closely link community level indicators with service delivery outcomes and activity levels within a selected community facing core service, trying to better stand those community indicators at a disaggregated level. What we learn, we're going to share in a manager's budget addenda, which will also then help inform our transition to the entire CSAs and core services over the following 2 years. And this slide here, so we talked, about the roles and responsibilities and the historical inputs and a lot of things that we've done. And just wanted to kind of put at a high level, trying to pull together how all that information flows into the budget development process. And in practice, it's always a lot messier than this, right? Budget is always a messy process, but conceptually and by design and by policy, we've got information that flows from the community and gets considered by council as direction in the March budget message, which sets our goals and priorities for changes in community outcomes and service levels, which directly impacts some CSA core service outcomes and performance targets, directly impacts some day-to-day service needs, and also informs the city roadmap. All of these are then inputs and priorities for the budget development, which then help actually allocate dollars to all of these items to hopefully make the changes that we're all looking for. And so just wanted to sort of have that sort of conceptual framework in mind here. And as I'm getting to the last section, we have our considerations for the 22-23 budget development process that Jennifer touched on a little bit in the beginning. We are, guided by and directed by the mayor's March budget message and council's approval of that for our formal direction for any significant policy or service change. But in preparation for that, the city manager issued a direction to department directors for some preliminary direction on budget submittals, focusing again, because we want to get back to a structurally balanced budget. And a lot of these items that are funded on a one-time basis over a number of years in the general fund and those items in the American Rescue Plan Fund are, important and practically a lot of them are viewed as ongoing services. So we need to consider those to get ourselves back into a structurally balanced budget, even though that might take 2 or 3 years. There will be probably a need to address a very small number of new initiatives to resolve some limited gaps for maybe some city roadmap items and a focus on a small handful of key policy areas, including public safety. We are always, although I just talked about how it's really difficult to have large scale shifts between different areas of the city's budget, we are always looking and asking departments and working with departments to look at the restructuring and shifting of existing resources to better meet the city's ongoing service level of objectives. Normally that's a little bit smaller scale. Some of it happens even outside the budget process because it's at a lower level. And then some of it happens within the budget process itself to sort of make some tweaks to get the most as we can from reallocating the existing resources without significantly detrimentally impacting services elsewhere. It's the city manager's direction is consistent with the city council direction in really 2 important ways. Again, prioritizing returning the city to a structurally balanced general fund budget. I know we keep harping on that, but I think these things that we fund on a one-time basis are really ongoing, and we need to really think about that as we have a bridging strategy to achieve our balanced budget over a 2 to 3 year period. We also want to continue the focus and implementation of strategies to reduce our vacancies so we have a more accurate picture of our workload capacity before we start adding other new programs. So we have a lot of programs that we need to get ongoing, but even if we, some of those it's a challenge to implement because we have a lot of vacancies. So we have to really want to get at that vacancy level so we understand where we are from a real baseline capacity to do work. That direction also continues to prioritize our most vulnerable communities because many of those one-time funded items in the general fund and the American Rescue Plan are squarely aimed at those that have been disproportionately impacted by COVID or otherwise a vulnerable population. And we also are continuing our efforts to explicitly embed equity in our budget development process. We are in year 2 for our budgeting for equity worksheets, which is a tool that we developed and to help us sort of think critically about our equity analysis as we both departments prepare their budget submittals and we in the city manager's office think about the proposed budget package. So in this year, departments are evaluating how specific proposals and resource allocations impedes or advances equity of a community serving core service to allow for a little bit more focused approach to develop our equity analysis skills at a deeper level. And then we have our pilot program, which I talked about earlier, revising a department's core service performance measures for a community-facing service, where our pilot departments are DOT, environmental services, human resources, library, housing, police, parks, recreation, neighborhood services, and Office of Economic Development and Cultural Affairs. We want to revise these metrics to understand community outcomes at a disaggregated level, and we'll be talking about that in an MBA we will release later in the budget process. And those equity considerations, not just what the department submits, but how we think about it in the city manager's office will also be really critical as we are also guided by the mayor's March budget message direction. Will be explicitly considered who benefits and who's burdened by a recommended proposal package. We also probably want to consider in certain instances recommending some lower than cost recovery levels for some of those community serving fee programs and those impacting the most vulnerable. I know we've got some policies to try to be as cost recovery as possible, but we may need to make some limited exceptions as we have in the past 2 years to get us through the challenges of the pandemic. And we'll be informed by those budgeting for equity worksheets that the department submits as we put together our overall budget proposal package. But did want to just to point out though that, unless we're directed to do so by the city council and the approval of the March budget message, we don't anticipate reallocating or recommend reallocating significant existing resources from one area of the city's budget to the other. Definitely on a smaller scale, we will do that, and we have always done that on a limited basis. But because we have service shortfalls and gaps throughout the organization, because of our history of dealing with the general fund shortfalls, we would need city council direction to consider those more substantial service impacts. So right now we are focusing on the integration of those one-time funded American Rescue Plan funded items, which is consistent with the city's focus on our most vulnerable communities. And finally, just some immediate next steps. I don't have on here, but in 2 weeks, we're going to release the mid-year review for 21-22. So that'll be interesting information. But in terms of the 22-23 process, we're going to release our city manager's budget request and 5-year forecast and revenue projections at the end of February. City council will review and approve the mayor's March budget message for 22-23 on the 15th of March. And then we get into high production mode of putting the budget together. So by early May, we're releasing the capital budget, the operating budget, and our fees and charges report. And depending on that, how that direction of the mayor's March budget message and what those priorities are, maybe having some more focused discussion about within both the proposed operating budget document and within the study sessions about how that change from what our base budget is to what our proposed budget is impacting some of the key performance metrics and outcomes and those things that have been directed in the March message. So we'll look forward to having new ways to look at and explore and have a conversation about those items that are in the proposed budget. And I think I'm done talking finally. So thank you all for listening, and we will turn it back to the council.
Thank you, Jim and Jennifer and the whole team for that very comprehensive presentation. Outstanding job. Now we're going to go to public comments before we go to council discussion. And Tony, can we start public comments, please?
Wait, hold on just a second. Caller 4379.
Hi, great presentation. Thank you for all that useful information. I just wanted to point out that the budget director's graphic showed a priority 1 response time of 5.9 minutes in 2007 and 2008 for the police department. And the 2 years prior, the response times were 7.1 minutes and 7.0 minutes when sworn staffing was still at that higher level of 1,300 officers. This presentation had a strong emphasis on response times, and I think it's important to remember that there are other factors that affect these times beyond just throwing 49 million at more sworn staff. So in summary, we had 7-minute response times with 200 more sworn staff from 2005 to 2007, the years prior to the data point in the graphic. And today we still have a 7-minute priority 1 response time. So I thought it was something to highlight. Otherwise, thank you again for the information.
Yes, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. I would like, hello?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, wait, my time's, okay, got my timer. Okay, first of all, Tony's perjuring documents. So to have her legitimize these documents, that she needs to go. She is no longer responsible. She changed documents. There's going to be criminal charges that are going to be filed against her. So she needs to be removed. Now to the equity. On page 8, you have equity lowercase. I want to know if that was a typo. Is it an adjective or a noun? That's what I want to know. That's number 1. Page 8, equity lowercase. I want to know, is it a noun or is it an adjective? The other thing is that, let me see. Oh, when you started putting the numbers, on page 28, okay, where it talked about the gang, the Mayor's Gang Task Force, you put those numbers in the millions of dollars. But on the other items, when it had to do with parks and recreation and maintenance and all this stuff, you put those in thousands of dollars. But yet it's actually more. That one I spotted. I want to know why you did that. Why you're using certain numbers in certain areas but not in others. And I suggest you challenge yourself, Mr. Shannon, because you talk about a good one about racial equity. This mayor went in front of this city and admitted culpability and accountability. Do you know that all of that is required for an involuntary manslaughter charge is that somebody act recklessly without intention, but it resulted in a death? The minute that Mayor Cardo stood up there and admitted that he was responsible for everything that has befallen our citizens, that must include death, because those death certificates can be directly tied to his recklessness. You don't have to have intent. All you have to do is act recklessly in the capacity to where it resulted in someone's death. He stood in front of these people. I want equity. I want 50% of this budget towards the homeless.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks for the meeting today. I guess just to go over a few of my important points, from this week that I've been learning they're important to myself. I didn't mention yesterday, there was a really good report on the future of, equity issues and the equity roundtable from the Neighborhood Services and Education Committee yesterday. Good luck in those continued good efforts. I didn't mention green sustainability, that I think in low-income communities to talk about that issue is interesting and important and should be an important part of the future of the Equity Roundtable topic matter. Good luck on how to talk about that issue. I've been describing the issues of the reason why Zoom meetings and their language interpretation is so expensive and we can barely do it is because they're upholding values of English-only laws from the 1980s that we are really seriously practicing to this day. And I think we need to acknowledge that. And I think we really have to start having better open conversations about it, that I think the Equity Roundtable can be a good place just to have those conversations. I think it has to be an open conversation.
Hey, Blair, please
sir.
try to get back.
They are ideas of equity and how to be budgeting for our future. It's important. It's incredibly important. What else am I meaning to talk about at this time about issues of equity? Oh, planning, of course, planning. How are we going to be planning for 2023 and this year and for 2023? Are we going to bring out our best selves to deal with our future? I hope we can. I think that's possible and hopeful. Thank you.
Jill Borders.
Hi, thank you. I just want to first, I believe someone in the very beginning mentioned Councilmember Mahan's memo about how he was very, the memo wanting to link our budget to city services. And I just want to personally thank him because having this information is going to really be key. I'm so excited about this because when I watch these meetings, I'm so clueless a lot of the time. I want to become educated, and I feel like this will actually give me the information I need. So I want to personally thank him for that. What I want to ask is and this is just or throw this out here as a thought. If California goes to a universal health care plan, or let's say the United States does, I know we have Obamacare, but let's say we had this idea of universal health care, will that help San Jose to not have to pay those healthcare costs, for our workers? So for example, it saves an employer a bundle of money if they don't have to pay into, health insurance for their employees. And that's one reason I'm for it, so that employees can really branch out and not have that as being like the dangling, carrot, come work for us. I just want to kind of divorce those two, but I'm wondering if that would help us free money up and how much of our expenses are devoted to that. Anyway, so it's something to think about. If we do go to universal health care, if that's something as residents we can push for at the state level, and that would help San Jose because we are so underfunded all over the place. I'm trying to look for big ways to make change. So I am curious about that and if we know any more about that. Okay, thank you so much for all of this information. It was fabulous.
Back to council.
See one more. Oh, that's it for public comment. So we're gonna go back to council. Councilmember Davis.
Vice Mayor. And I just want to thank all the staff for putting this presentation together. I know it was a ton of slides, but it's great information and very pertinent. I can tell that things change every year. So I would like to build on the request for this study session for this year and actually request that this become the first study session that we have every year before the February forecast comes out. This is very helpful for us to ground both our expectations of what both the forecast is going to be, where we're ending up with the final part of the current fiscal year, and as we think about our own budget documents. So this is extremely helpful, and I'm very, very grateful to have this study session today. I did want to ask a few questions. There's a lot of detail here, and there's also, it just brought up a few questions for me. I was particularly mindful, and I want to thank you, Jim, for giving us the example of the $49 million to add 211 sworn positions in the police department. And that's a mix of positions, because if you added 211 positions, you would need sergeants and lieutenants in addition to sworn officers. So I wanted to ask about that, because it comes out to, I think it's something like 232,000. I just did a quick back of the envelope, 232,000 kind of per position. And I'm wondering, I know that's not exactly true I think it's somewhere closer to 100 or 125,000 for a new officer. So I'm just kind of wondering what the mix is in that 211. So how many officers before you need another sergeant? How many officers and sergeants before you need another lieutenant? How does that shake out?
Yeah.
And that may not be a question for you, Jim, and I totally understand if that's a question that needs to go to PD.
Well, it was, I asked that same question because I wanted to be able to do the calc. So I can, if we want to get into the weeds, we'll see if someone from PD is here. But I think I can say that the standard rule, it does vary across programs. So it is a broad brush approach in two ways. So one, so that mix is about 5 officers to a sergeant and 4 sergeants to a lieutenant.
Okay.
So, and also, if, because of and we talked about this a little bit, I think with an MVA last year, but part of the cost for police officers is high because of the unfunded actuarial liability. So if we were going to add, let's say a massive number of police officers, we'd probably do our costing a little bit differently to try to parse out the UAL, because the UAL doesn't necessarily go up that much.
Right.
But it becomes really difficult to cost. Just for the illustrative example, it was too much work to try to figure out what that would be. But an officer is currently costed at about $200,000. And so, the sergeant's about 300 and a lieutenant about 380. So the fully burdened cost, we might take a different approach if we were doing a mass update of them, but those are the rules of thumb that we use for our purposes here.
Okay, that's really helpful. I appreciate that, because if we were going to add officers in a more piecemeal way, it's probably roughly around the 230 would give us, if we were going to do 25 or 50 officers at a time.
Right. Yeah. If we were doing a lower amount. Yeah. So around 212 is what we would cost out for a police officer.
And I just want to be clear. I think you were clear when you talked about that, but that's an additional $49 million of ongoing funds, which means we would have to cut something else ongoing or have additional ongoing revenue.
Correct, Councilmember. Yeah.
Okay. So as I'm just kind of linking our forecasted contributions to the pension are going down. Are those considered ongoing?
Yes. So we have those as part of our 5-year forecast. We take the actuaries' data and plug those out into our 5-year forecast model. So those are ongoing cost reduction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful. I link those two, because if we're saving on pension costs for police officers, then maybe we want some more police officers, especially given that that's public safety is a very high priority for our residents. So I appreciate that. The other question I have is, can you talk a little bit more about what does a budgeting for equity worksheet look like? I don't, participate in the individual department level budget processes and exercises. So I'm just curious, what does that look like? What's the process that a department goes through when they're using that worksheet?
Yeah, it's thank you for the question. So it's really when we were kind of really talking about this, is like, what's the tool? Give me a toolkit so I can plug in data and it gives me a number. And obviously, as you all know, that's not it. But it's really a worksheet, that provides ask questions to get at a deeper level of analysis. So it's really a way sort of to probe to understand how the budget is structured, or the different programs, and how to get to critically think about what those programs meet from a disaggregated level. Do we have disaggregated levels? So if we're looking at this core service in this budget proposal, what do these proposals tell us at an individual, at a more granular level? If we have that data for different types of communities, what has been the preliminary feedback from the community of these proposals, if that information is known? And one of the things that we've been learning is that we don't have a lot of good disaggregated data, and so that's part of the challenges. We have created a few new tools. Public Works has created this equity atlas in partnership with the Office of Racial Equity, which is kind of a nice little tool to see geographically where some of the disparities are. But when you get down to some of the program level data, some of that doesn't exist. So it's about thinking critically about what data that we do have, how that data has informed the process, so that when there's looking at, in this particular instance, looking at a core service, so how does this core service in particular, if we just do a deeper dive on the individual elements of how X dollars can improve Y service output, how does that in an aggregate level impact the objectives of that core service? And it's a learning process. So, there's different levels of expertise across the departments, and we're happy that Office of Racial Equity is providing some trainings and some office hours. And I know that Andrea from the Office of Racial Equity is here. I don't know if Andrea, if you wanted to sort of add any more color to what I was saying about, because I know that we developed those sheets in partnership with you folks.
Thank you, because that was going to be my next question of who developed the worksheet.
And Jim, I'm
Go
gonna
ahead, Andrea. Thank you.
Jim, I'm gonna pipe in really quick
Yeah,
before we go to Andrea. So Councilmember Davis, when I forwarded you the direction that we sent to the departments on the operating budget development planning that was towards the latter part of December, there's an attachment D that talks really in depth, and this is good for all the council members to know, about the budgeting for equity worksheet, and actually has the worksheet there and kind of the instructions and the questions for the departments to think about. So if you want to actually look at something more physical, please reference that, and I can certainly re-forward it to you if you can't find it in your inbox, but it is in that document.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Probably didn't get through all the attachments.
I know. It was a
Appreciate that.
It was a pretty thick packet, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention. Thank you, Andrea, for any of your comments that you'd like to say.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Jennifer, for that additional information. And good morning, Mayor and Council. My name is Andrea Trung. I'm the Racial Equity Manager in the Office of Racial Equity. And referring to your question, Councilmember Davis, and kind of adding on to what Jim mentioned, as he mentioned, it is a series of questions. And so this tool is a worksheet. We're asking several of our departments, and we're looking at it from two layers, because we know that a lot of our departments are community facing, but we also have strategic support departments that are kind of looking at it from an internal city service perspective. So we're kind of asking community service departments to look at it from a core service at a community facing level, and then our strategic support departments to use it from kind of an internal core service that they're using. And so these several questions that we're asking them is, what kind of data they have or they're collecting, and especially looking at it from a disaggregated data level, and in the future, what are the kinds of data that they may be using. And as what Jim referred to, we do have several resources such as the Equity Atlas and other census level data that some of our departments can use. And then we also ask, what are some of the root causes that you may think that are certain disparities and such as. And as Jim mentioned, we've worked really closely with the budget office in tandem to kind of work on these series of questions together so that we feel like there's an added benefit to both the budget process and with our departments as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that detail. And Jennifer, I'm sorry, I don't remember. Is all of that on the budget website as well? That you all those that direction that you sent us?
Jim, did you put the memo that we sent out on the budget website?
It would be on the web. It might be on our site because there's a lot of working documents in there.
We'll make sure it's there, Councilmember Davis.
Okay.
But again, we'll get it. We can also get you. But it was a very thick document, so it was right before the holidays. So I'm sure that all the council hasn't had a chance to even get through the whole document yet.
Well, and I appreciate putting it on the website, first of all, because I generally go to the website for the budget stuff because there is so much of it, but also because making it available to the public will give more transparency to our budget process.
Absolutely.
So I think that would be helpful. In terms of one of the things that we've been doing under American Rescue Plan that is not an ongoing service, wasn't a service before the pandemic, and I think was something that we kind of took on because the county asked us to, was the feeding programs, the food programs. And I wanted to find out, is that something that we're looking at? As you were saying, Jim, a lot of the American Rescue Plan work is we're trying to figure out how it's going to be ongoing and what is going to be ongoing. Is that something we're thinking we're going to continue on with as part of our service delivery bundle?
So when we came in, so the short answer is we are looking to not do that on an ongoing basis and to transition that responsibility back out to the county. And I know we talked about that as part of our goals when we came forward on November 30th to extend some of that service through June, but try to unwind that. But I know Lee Wilcox is available. Maybe you can provide any more context there.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Lee Wilcox, Assistant City Manager. And Jim is absolutely right. In the short term, we definitely are working with the nonprofit community and the county to transition that program back to the county. At the same time, the county is in the process of, I believe, finishing kind of a collective impact model research project around food insecurity throughout the county. And we'll be presenting that at some point to the nonprofits and the rest of the cities in the location. So there could be areas which the council would choose in the future to kind of step in and help fill gaps in around food securities, but that would be separate from kind of the emergency response level program that we've had over the last several months.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Just making a note here so I don't forget. Collective impact model is a term I hadn't heard before. And then on my final question on slide 45, the bottom part of it, I'll just read it off. It's currently piloting an effort with several departments to more closely link community level indicators with service delivery outcomes and activity levels within a selected core service. And then you listed off a couple of slides later, you listed off a couple of the departments that are kind of going through that. Can we get and it doesn't have to be now, I'm just asking in the presentations for the budget, the departments that are piloting that, can we get a really concrete example of what that looks like and how they're doing that, and whether they're doing that with the tools that we have or whether we need additional tools? I know Adobe has our very own, right, headquartered company here has tools like that, dashboard tools, and can track information in real time, and that they are being very close to us. I think they're probably very amenable to helping us with that, and maybe that's something we can pilot as part of this pilot. So I just wanted to throw that out there and have that request about the departments that are doing the pilot, if they could give us examples of that when we get to the study sessions and the core service area presentations. It would be really helpful to get more detail on that. I think this is really exciting, and I know this is kind of maybe a phase 2 to the budget. It was always meant to be part of the budget process as we changed over, and it's good to hear that we're piloting that and to more closely link that. But I want to know what that looks like and what tools we have, and maybe if they're identifying gaps in the tools that we have to do that in an easy way, because I think I want to have the links, but I don't want everyone to spend way too much time doing that as opposed to actually delivering the services. And that's my concern with that.
Yeah. So yes, for sure, we will make sure that happens. We will also be issuing a written document about our findings there too. So we will do both. We'll have an MBA on it, and we'll definitely highlight it as part of our study sessions. Thank you, Councilmember.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you, Councilmember Mahan.
Thanks, Vice Mayor. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Jim, Bonnie, Jennifer, everybody else. I know a lot of work went into putting together the presentation and today's study session, and I really appreciate it. This is definitely the kind of conversation about priorities, performance measurement, trade-offs, and all the budget implications that I'd envisioned in that memo that council adopted. So I appreciate that we're taking the time to have this conversation, and I found the presentation to be really helpful as well. I want to just make a few comments, and then I may have a couple of questions as well, but just kind of reflecting this morning on the presentation. I'd gone through the slides earlier and then just kind of listened. And, I think to me, there are a couple of sort of inescapable conclusions here. And, I'd be curious to hear if my colleagues agree or not. But one is that it just seems to me that if, our goal, as I know it is to provide high quality, valuable services to all of our residents. One conclusion I have is that we have to do everything we possibly can to enable investment and economic growth, certainly where and how we want it, not unbridled and growth that's going to detract from our quality of life, but that investment that is going to enable us to grow sales and property tax revenues to be more in line with the per capita revenues that our neighboring cities enjoy, and that and the level of services that our residents see their friends in neighboring cities receive. And I wanted to note, because it's often we use jobs as a shorthand for that investment, and I think that's roughly right based on the data I've seen. But it's attracting employers and jobs and all of that activity, but also, and I think I confirmed this in a council meeting in December, and I just want to reinforce it because I think it's important for us, if it's true, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we should all have this in the back of our minds as well. It is also dense housing where we want it. So if we are building housing at a density of 45 units to the acre or greater in places like downtown and along major transit corridors and in our urban villages, that is also a net fiscal positive. And I just mention it because I don't want us to use a shorthand that may lead us to make assumptions and to narrow the scope of the policy solutions that we embrace as a council. To me, based on the data I've seen, and again, I hope someone will correct me if I'm wrong, residential density in urban villages, or where else we want it at this density of 45 units to the acre or up, and jobs. And I think those two things can be complementary, and actually one can facilitate the other. Dense, walkable, vibrant neighborhoods with a lot of residents eventually become places where employers want to be. And I think we've seen that in San Francisco. We've seen that in other places. And so I just want to reinforce that point. Further on that first point, it also says to me, and again, I don't know if my colleagues agree with this or not, but it draws attention to the importance of making strategic investments in services like planning, building, and code enforcement, where appropriate staffing levels, reducing turnover, and then investing in technology, streamlining processes, simplifying rules, all of that will lead to that investment in the jobs and housing that we want to be faster and there to be more of it. And that's going to grow the economic pie allow us to have greater revenues per capita without having to raise taxes on people or businesses, and start to get more in line with some of our peer cities in terms of delivering the level and quality of services that people want. So I just laying that out because at least as I think about our budget and where we want to invest and strategically where we want to go, that to me feels like a key conclusion here. The second one is, to me at least, that we've got to focus on doing fewer things if we want to do them well, or at least think really hard, really hard before we add anything else to our plates, before we take on any new projects or initiatives or responsibilities that are not already within those core service areas. And on that one, I guess, and I'll try to frame this up as a question, but as I heard all of the information about the context on where we've been with the budget and staffing, and then saw the roadmap flashed up, it still feels to me, and this is part of what motivated my memo that I think, in part led to the study session today, it feels to me that there is still a bit of a missing step here at the level of the council around priority setting in a way that would start from a discussion of the measurable community outcomes that we most care about, just to check in on our priorities. What are those? How would we rank them as a council? So I'm thinking, measurable community outcomes are things like the crime rate, the condition of our parks, the number of people living in the streets. These are tangible, measurable, concrete things in the community that we can all look at and say, we want to reduce that. And we probably all agree on the ones that we want to move. The question is sort of, what's the stack ranking of them? Which one's most important at this moment? Is it reducing the number of human beings living on our streets? Is it bringing down the violent crime rate? Is it improving the road pavement conditions? And what's kind of the ordering of those, I think would be a healthy exercise. And then from there, we can back in another step before we even get to the roadmap. I would argue that we then want to back up one more step from that to talk about, well, what are the city services that might impact that outcome? What are the programs, services, initiatives? What are the things that we do or could do that move the needle on those? And that's where we measure performance, because we can only measure the performance of the things that we do. And so I would love to see us start from those measurable community outcomes and attempt to get consensus around some sort of ranking or prioritization. We're never going to have perfect consensus, but a little more alignment and clarity there, because I think staff deserves that clarity from us. And then say, okay, well, what are the measures of performance that we think are the best proxies for us moving the needle on those outcomes? And then what are the investments we might make? And I totally appreciate, I think it's very clear in the data, and we're right here, that we're not going to make big sweeping changes. The trade-offs are just too painful. We're not going to shut down our libraries in order to have more police officers. I mean, it's just, the trade-offs are too hard. But we can take a multi-year look at, as more revenue, if we, based on that sort of first conclusion I offered, assuming revenue does increase over time, what are the outcomes we're most interested in moving, and what are the performance measures of the investments and services that we control at City Hall that could move the needle on those outcomes? And so I think structuring this conversation around that would really help the council give good direction, and would empower staff to feel that there's more alignment and consistency from us before we get to a road mapping process where we're all just proposing, we're proposing various initiatives, and the community's offering their input, and interest groups are weighing in, and everybody's just throwing projects out, and then we're kind of voting on which ones sound the best. I'd like to see, personally at least, a connective line, a connective tissue between what are the projects we're discussing and prioritizing on the roadmap, what do we think, how are we going to measure the performance of those, whether or not they're having their intended, that they're actually working, and can we tie a line to the community outcomes that we have prioritized and said that we care about? There needs to be sort of a theory of change, in my opinion, between what we put on the roadmap as a change initiative and invest in, and then all the way out to that community outcome that we care most about. And then the final point I just want to make is, because we're looking at outcomes and performance through the lens of the budget, which I think is right, we are mostly talking about staffing because that's our big cost driver. But I really don't want us to lose sight of the fact that there are investments in things like technology, process improvements, simplifying rules and regulations, investing in professional development and staff, reducing staff turnover, leveraging external partnerships. There's a long list of other strategies that may or may not have an impact on the number you see in the budget. And I just want to encourage us if we can start from the community outcomes we want and the strategies and the performance measures that are going to help us get to those. I hope that in our mix of things we're talking about isn't just staffing levels. It's also what are the investments in technology or process improvement or regulatory streamlining or partnerships that could also help us move the needle and improve those measures that's going to ultimately improve those outcomes. So I like to see more of a through line on all of that. I apologize for the diatribe here, but I've been thinking a lot about this over the last year and, wrote the memo that kind of led us to this conversation and just wanted to offer that. So I guess my question, if I could frame this up, and I don't know if this is for Jennifer or Lee or Jim or you all tell me, but does any of that resonate? And as we get to this road mapping process, are there things we can do to empower both the council and the staff to have greater clarity and alignment around how roadmap projects get measured and tie to community outcomes and just have more consistency there? Because last year felt like a bit of a grab bag to me, and I think we can do better.
Yeah, so I'll start, and then Lee, I'll have you talk a little bit about what we're going to do with the roadmap process. I think in February is when we're planning on coming back, council member. So yes, totally resonates, and we have attempted to do what you've talked about, and many times, over my career, especially as budget director, I think we can take a renewed focus of attempting to do that again. I think that's good. Again, the mayor's role in driving our fiscal priorities and presenting them for the council as part of the approval of the March budget message is really our guiding document as we develop this, where we are putting the roadmap a little ahead of that. So it's a little out of order. So again, as Jim says, it's a little messy. It doesn't look as beautiful as that one little chart of the different, the little boxes of how it all flows together. But we are, going to be attempting to start doing some stack ranking, even of the enterprise priorities, and how those can flow to some, and then above that, the outcomes. So I'm going to let Lee describe what staff's been talking about at a high level. We're still figuring it out and how we're going to bring that forward. So that can be another consideration as the council, as the mayor puts together his budget message and the council contemplates that budget message in mid-March. Lee?
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer, and thank you for the question, council member. And obviously you and I have had some chance to talk about this, so appreciate your comments. And I guess I would start with continuing to thank the council and thank staff for working on the roadmap. As we said, it was pretty ambitious to try and pull off that exercise last year, given the situation we were in. And, it was an attempt to bring something that would provide us more focus and guidance over the next year. And I think even then, to your point, I think we all thought that it was ambitious, what was in there. And little did we know over the summer that, Delta variant and now Omicron would come back. So, I think this year you're going to see staff coming forward, again, like Jennifer said, in the February timeframe with two things. Us trying to say within those enterprise priorities, within that roadmap, here's what staff thinks should be more focused and more measured and more resourced if needed. But that will really be, done in a stack rank or just here's the two priorities this year. And, Jim's point, I think the things that we've talked about the most, oddly enough, is what the residents care about this past year. But how are we more deliberate as a team, council and staff, about what that is? And I doubt, that focus wouldn't lend to better results. And then the second part being, priority setting, which is what it was referred to back in the day. It started in a very different place. It was the intent was very different. And so to Jennifer's point now, it has taken on projects, strategies, and policy. It started just as a policy tool, really, a very nimble policy tool to help us address short-term things. And now it has much larger things. So, Jim and team and Dolan, we will be trying to better align that process into the budget process, which, is the mayor's March message, which is really the North Star for us as we go through budget development. That is something, those budget principles and the direction that you all approve from the mayor is what will lend into, obviously budget development, but how we measure and resource those priorities within the roadmap. So as we promised you last year, we're going to constantly iterate on the roadmap and on this process and refine it every year to get better and to have us focus as a team more.
Thank you. Yeah, it does feel that the timing of the roadmap might be a little bit out of sequence, just in terms of us proposing and debating discrete projects and change initiatives prior to having a robust discussion of the community outcomes that we think are most important. But I appreciate that we're continuing to iterate and improve on that. And I appreciate that your point there that the mayor's budget message that we ultimately all need to adopt is the North Star for our priorities. I think that's right. So, okay, well, this has been really helpful. I just want to thank everyone again. Great presentation, a lot of valuable context. I'm actually looking forward to taking some of these slides and sharing them with the community and maybe, doing some community engagement around this, because we do get a lot of questions about what we're focused on, where tax dollars are going, how to improve service delivery. And so this is really helpful. I appreciate all the time and effort that went into it. Thank you all very much. And sorry, can you just remind us all one more time the timing of the road mapping process for the council, and what if any kind of high level direction we'll have in terms of how we engage in that process?
So we're thinking through that now. Our first thought was doing it in February prior to the budget message to at least have the council understand staff's preliminary thoughts about prioritization and focus, but open to the timing of that, and certainly understand your point on the larger strategy conversation. But right now, tentatively scheduled for end of February.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Thank you again.
Thank you, Councilman Mahan, and thank you, Vice Mayor, for leading us through all this. I was listening by phone as I was on the road, so my apologies for not jumping in the beginning, but thank you, Vice Mayor. Other questions from my colleagues? I know we've heard so far from Councilmember Davis and Mahan. Vice Mayor, did you have any questions or comments?
Just a comment. I really appreciate Matt's comments, and I'm in total alignment with him on those. Actually, Jim, I kind of keyed in on when you started out by saying that it's a messy process, and I've experienced that process over the last 7 years. And the more structure that we can have, and I know it's part of the reason why it's a messy process is because it's a political process, but the more structure that we can have going through the process, I think it would benefit the council and my council colleagues as well as myself in terms of how we frame and structure our decisions. An example is trade-offs. Oftentimes when we're having our council discussions, and there's a lot of really great proposals that are put out there, and we'd love to fund all of them, but because of limited resources, we can't. So how do we make the decision on how those trade-offs are made? And I'll be honest with you, that's something that I've been struggling with over the last 7 years, particularly when, it's the 11th hour and we have these high dollar proposals and we're asked to make a decision on whether we fund those proposals, not truly understanding the consequences or trade-offs. And so that was a great example that you had with police staffing. We can really use more scenarios and examples of that, as well as some scenarios and examples of performance metrics. So if you can provide us with where we have a particular project or initiative or policy, and how that policy goes through the process and finally ends up in terms of how we measure that the outcomes with whatever performance metrics that we have in place. So that would be extremely helpful for me, and again, for my colleagues as well, to be able to have some concrete structure and examples so that we can have that framework to base those decisions on. So that's my comments, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Jim, did you want to respond or?
No,
Allow the statement.
Yeah, just to say, I think that is, those are good comments. We'll definitely take those. And like we mentioned at the very tail end there, we do want to provide some different alternatives about how to look at that, how to look at the trade-offs as we go through the budget in both the document as well as in the study sessions. I think that'll also be informed by your conversations, the roadmap, and what gets approved in the March budget message.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. And I really embrace Vice Mayor's comments as well. And as I think about, maybe how I do different things differently in the past, the conversations we had about ARPA money, for example, were taken out of the standard budgetary process. And so we really didn't have a discussion of trade-offs. And I think that if we had injected that, as I think about how we could have structured it, that may have helped us to be able to make more optimal decisions as we're thinking about funding we need to keep things going today and in the March and June decisions. So I really appreciate those thoughts. I just want to throw out one suggestion along those lines, and this may take more work than it's worth, but imagine at some point as a council, we'd probably want to say, if we're going to engage in trade-off discussions, the first thing we probably need to do is decide what's off limits and trade-offs. We're not going to, for example, not pay debt obligations. We know that. We know we're not going to cut emergency medical response in the fire department. There's some pretty critical areas, and then it would force the discussion in a narrower arena where we really do have to make those tough decisions about, do we value this service more than that? And those are hard decisions, but those are what we're really required to make. And I think too often we're making them unintentionally, perhaps not fully, not with the full intention that we could if we were more explicitly considering those trade-offs. So anyway, I appreciate very much Vice Mayor's perspective on that. I want to go back to a couple earlier comments. One, a question that Councilmember Davis raised. And Jim, this is maybe an academic point given where we are in our budgetary challenges, but in terms of adding police officers, I just assumed that the marginal cost of adding each officer would not include any AAR, UAAL, that is no unfunded liability in either pensions or retiree health care. And that was because adding officers would not create any unfunded liabilities. It would merely distribute the same unfunded liabilities onto more people. Am I right in believing that?
Correct. So the unfunded actuarial liability is a dollar amount that's given to the city that's spread across, all of the different at a very detailed level. So every cost, every program, every core service, or every fund. And so the incremental cost of adding an officer doesn't necessarily impact the UAL for that year. And that's why my comment was, if we were doing something larger, I think we need to think a little bit more critically about peeling off the UAL. The way, that we have all of our budget integrated throughout, having that done for every one-off ad is probably more than we could really accommodate. But if we were going to do a bulk ad, I think we would want to, strip out the UAL component. Like we talked about, I think we had an MBA last year that talked about, if we were going to trade off overtime for positions, that incremental cost margin shouldn't include the retirement. And so we would do something kind of similar here if we were doing something large. And that's because we've been really dialing in. I mean, as we've sharpened our pencils, we've really sharpened our pencils too about how we cost out the UAL, how it's integrated. So everywhere we can, we're trying to sort of shave it off, but we also have to be careful we don't make it too overly complicated that we make it air somewhere else. So that's my only sort of caveat.
Yeah, understood. It just seems that, the decisions we might make about marginal changes in positions are different than the data that we're looking at the aggregate.
Right. True.
Yeah, it could be a moot point depending on where we find our numbers are. And I guess we'll know more in the next few weeks. A more general question, I guess, about our approach here. And forgive me, I have misplaced the question in my head here, because I know it was an important one. I know what it was. As you, and I really appreciate all the information in the presentation, as we think about not what our ongoing deficit is, but what I might call our service level deficit is we think about all those dollars that we are relying on that are one-time dollars that are really funding ongoing services that I think we'd all want to be ongoing, whether it's for childcare, for cleaning up the city, whatever it might be. Can you just give us the aggregate number of how much money are we spending in one-time money that we've got to now cram into the general fund if we were not to cut a single service?
So we have, with the information that I have up there is in the American Rescue Plan, it's about $105 million. That's program expenses.
Right.
Not
all that was 1 year, right? Some of
that's in one year. Some of it is multi-year funding. So what I was going to be careful about is picking and choosing, because we're not making any recommendations as part of this presentation. But I think it's safe to say that not all the 105 million would fall under the category of one-time programs that we consider on an ongoing basis, right? So food is a good example that the Councilmember Davis gave. We also have a couple of projects in there that are funded for multiple year periods, but things that will be like the Beautify San Jose consolidated model, which is about $12 million on an ongoing basis. Our San Jose the Viva Calle program, I forget that, right. right? So that's about a $4.8 million program. We've got so those are some of the big ones. So I mean, I expect that number to be well over $30 million easily. And on the general fund side, it's $20 million of some of those things that we fund on a one-time basis. So it's pretty easy to get to a dollar amount that's over $50 million without having to try too hard about those items that we funded in the last couple of years.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So if we were to, so that $100+ million number, we would whittle down a bit, based on things that we think were episodic because of the pandemic, and maybe cutting out some of the things that may be multi-year funding just to a single year.
Yep.
And you think the number is somewhere on the order of 50 million?
Well, I get nervous when the budget director gives a number sort of on the spot.
So
just to say that, I think it's easy to get above 50 million. If you give me that leeway, it's pretty substantial.
Could I just ask that would be a number that you guys would think about presenting to us, through the budget process, just so we can really fully digest? Look, we've made a lot of spending decisions necessarily, in many cases, in other cases, just because, look, we had federal money that was one-time money, and we've got a lot of great needs, tremendous needs in our city that need to be addressed. And we did fund, we committed, I guess, the mortal sin of budgetary responsibility, which is we did identify some ongoing needs that we funded with one-time money. I don't think that's a great sin if you're talking about the very unique circumstances of a pandemic. You expect some revenues to rebound, and we know we have a one-time source, and it was all done very responsibly and transparently. But I think it's really important for us to be very explicit about what that number is, because I think that reflects our true deficit, in addition to whatever number you guys come up with in the next couple of weeks on our just general fund operating. And we just have to subtract from that the 50 whatever million to really understand what money we need to find if we're going to continue to sustain existing service levels.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Jim, I think
Jim's going to say what I'm going to say. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Yeah, I think, Jim, what we can do is in our 5-year forecast. Yeah, there we go. Well, we can present the general model and then do another model that layers that in, so you can see really what that's, so it's one's just the, the base
Yeah.
deficit, and then what's the service level deficit.
Yeah.
And layer that in, and so you can really have a better, clearer picture of that as you're contemplating what the direction you want to give to us is.
That would be great. Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate that. And then I really appreciated Councilmember Mahan's comments, and I agree with the conclusions. I would want to, I think, do a little deeper dive on a couple of the assumptions, because I don't think the assumptions were wrong, but I think they need probably some nuance. As we think about the contributions of different economic activity to our fiscal situation, we typically and crudely divide it between jobs and housing. And I think Councilmember Mahan is appropriate in saying, look, it is more nuanced than that. But there's no question that some job creating activity, employment activity, I should say, tends to be very high generator on net for the general fund, whether it's say retail or, we can imagine maybe a data center, whatever it might be. And there are, whereas housing, even in a perfect world where we build really, really, really high density, it may be just barely getting us to a net positive, but it's not a significant contributor. And I guess based on my understanding, we think that, the typical old school way of looking at it was housing was something that costs the general fund. Employment is something that contributes to the general fund. We know that it's more nuanced than that. But even as you get into higher densities of housing, where those lines cross over in that threshold, I would assume it's considerably higher than it was the last time we did a study. And I think the study suggested that somewhere around 45 or 50 units the acre is the crossover, because we know that services have become much, much more expensive, and that cost has significantly outgrown the pace of revenue growth. So I'm guessing that density maybe not at 50 units an acre, maybe 60, maybe higher. And even as we get into that very high density, it's still going to be just barely a net positive, though certainly I have been a strong advocate for density for lots of reasons, including that one. So I just think that we can't look at sort of high density housing as being equivalent in terms of a fiscal impact to employment and jobs producing uses. And I just want to invite you, Jim, if you want it, or anybody else who wants to add any color detail or correct me on any of that, feel free.
Yeah, Mayor, I think, I'm definitely not the expert, but I know that, Nancy Klein, who's the Director of Economic Development and Cultural Affairs, have been talking about updating. So we have done sort of that, some work about the cost, contributors and the revenue, per type of development. I think we're talking about updating that study to provide some of that information. So
yeah, that may be helpful. Yeah, because I think this is a really important discussion, and Councilmember Mahan, I think, is right to conclude as he has. I just think that the nuance is important, and look, we need the housing no matter what anyway. But I think we need to have our eyes open about the fact that every decision we're making that reduces the likelihood of employment use on land is going to have a significant negative impact in the long run on our fiscal situation. And while many may consider that to be a minor concern amid the housing crisis we all know is upon us, the reality is that all those residents that we serve deserve and expect a high level of basic services, particularly around public safety and the basic amenities of a city. And we simply haven't been able to provide that over the last couple of decades because of our serious fiscal situation. And so this balance is really important for us to constantly keep in mind. Councilmember Foley.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Jim, for the presentation, and thank you, Councilmember Mahan, for suggesting we have this study session and focus on the budget process early and trade-offs that we may have to make. I really appreciate your comments about that discussion in particular. What trade-offs do we have to make in order to provide core services that our residents want, demand, and need. And that those include, as you mentioned, public safety, trash pickup, filling potholes, street pavement repairs, things like that. Those are all really critical, but there are trade-offs in the budget. So I look forward to a really in-depth analysis of, if we cut here, what does that mean over here as far as services? If we cut, we can't just simply say, okay, across the board, we're going to cut 15% in order to balance our budget, because that could have effect on our core services and our outcomes that we're looking, positive outcomes that we're trying to achieve by budget decisions that we're making. So I also appreciated the discussion around, or the comments around, staffing levels are not just the solution, although they're really important, particularly in PBCE, but the efficiencies of work that our staff is asked to do, making that work more efficient, either on a process level or in a technology level, makes their work easier and more efficient for them, and it results in more efficiency for our residents. I'm particularly concerned or thinking about the permit process and how frustrated our residents are over the permit process and how long that takes. And that's one area that we might be able to look, that we should be looking at efficiencies, but I'm sure there are many, many others that will help cut our staff time. We don't want our staff to work harder. We want them to work smarter and more effectively. And that is by providing them the tools they need. And further, we have we have a huge employment crisis in the city, in the county, and in the country, where people aren't coming back to work and they're choosing not to work right now. So sometimes we have to look at how are we going to compensate our staff more in order to attract them into the important work that we want them to do. So I really appreciate this whole discussion around performance measures, about budget and core services. It is good what is happening with the UAL, but I'm cautiously optimistic about it, because that does affect on them. It affects them. It comes as a result of the market and the market conditions. While we had a really good year in 2021, 2022 is a little more questionable. So I'm concerned about that. I'm also concerned about the effects on the real estate market, that the number of listings in the residential market are way down. And while that, we live in the tech world, we live in an area where people have stock options and can use that money to purchase residential real estate and bid up prices. Over the long haul, that's really not sustainable, and we may see prices drop significantly, but not for a while. We just don't know. So Jim, I am concerned about our dependence on property values. And can you tell me what part of our budget, what percent of our budget is related to property values and assessments? Just
Let's see.
roughly?
Roughly, I mean, so thinking about property tax is roughly, I think, just a little bit less, and then maybe Selena can correct me if I get it wrong, but it's about 25% or so of our general fund, roughly. Now we have Measure E, which is, doing gangbusters, which is our real property transfer tax, that we don't really consider that part of our ongoing general fund resources, because council has directed that for specific purposes. So that would be the most heavily influenced by the transactions on the general fund side. As you know, council member, but just to say it, the property taxes, the growth is from two areas. One, is the growth is capped by the assessed value at the 2% level, but then the number of transactions that occur where we true up where the valuation gets trued up upon the transfer of title. Those are the two factors. So as we did experience a little bit, so we did have a little bit of a slowdown before the pandemic. You may recall the prices sort of leveled off and went down a bit before coming back up before. So, but I think it would take quite a bit to really negatively impact property tax. I think you could maybe see a slower growth for sure. It's interesting in the current fiscal year 21-22, our assessed growth was actually only 1% for the county, because that was because we had such low inflation that year. But for 22, 2023, because inflation has been high, we hit that 2% level. And yeah, thanks.
Right, I appreciate that. And I also appreciate that you separate the assessment, the property tax assessment versus the transfer tax, because they're two separate numbers, and the assessed value is much lower than the actual value of the real estate. So that's an important number for us to be aware of, and that is based on the 2% increase that's allowed on property values. And I'm glad you raised Measure E, but I wanted to remind us all that we have not committed those funds to the general fund, that we've committed those funds to affordable housing, and that was the purpose of those funds. And while we can change that on any given Tuesday, this council, when we approved Measure E, was adamant about protecting those funds for the transfer tax. So I just want to wrap up my comments and say I really appreciate the thoughtfulness and the direction of this budget process. I actually echo the concerns about having the roadmap discussion before the budget process. It seems to me that we should be discussing the budget first and then see what services we can add on or need to be modified in the roadmap discussion. But we'll move forward and be thoughtful about our budget and our priority session, which I'm calling it. Sorry, it is the roadmap, and I'm glad we're going to stick with that process for a little bit longer. But I truly appreciate the opportunity to have this discussion early around our budget and some of the concerns that we may have, and some of the positives that are coming out of our economic situation at the moment. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Mahan?
Thanks, Mayor. And I appreciated your comments. Points very well taken. I wanted to just offer as a quick point of clarification. I just want to be really clear that none of my comments were in favor of or arguing for land use conversions. I just want to make that clear. I was more thinking about the kinds of strategic investments we might make in departments like PBCE and staff, technology, process improvements, regulatory improvements that might accelerate the kinds of investment I think we want and might actually pay for themselves or have a multiplier on them. To your point about the high density residential, I completely appreciate that it's not going to give us the net revenues that we would get from most or any of the job generating uses. I would be interested though to see if we are able to put this into future analysis, two impacts there. I'm sure one is pretty commonly assessed. One is, for a higher density residential development, I'm thinking of our Miro towers across the street from City Hall, the impact on retail and parking. I'm sure that's modeled, but kind of those secondary impacts on the kind of health and revenues from retail over time, I would imagine could be significant. The other is over the long haul. I think a hypothesis I've heard, but haven't seen a lot of data to validate, is that dense walkable neighborhoods that have a vibrancy and culture to them could be appealing to certain types of employers, maybe tech startups and other employers that can grow over time in the city and may draw some job uses that we are unlikely to see attracted by low density suburban neighborhoods for obvious reasons. So I'd be interested in kind of both of those angles of analysis. And then just on Councilmember Foley's point there on the budget process and road mapping, I guess what I was trying to suggest is, if we could have, and maybe we can't do it this year, but just food for thought for the future, if the council could have a slightly more structured conversation about the community outcomes we most care about. We saw those top 4 that we've been talking a lot about: public safety, homelessness, blight, et cetera. If we had that structured conversation prior to road mapping, it might help us align more of the roadmap projects that we propose and debate and ultimately have to prioritize around the things that the community is telling us are most important and that we may be able to get some consensus around being most important. And that might help with the trade-off discussion as we finalize the budget. But anyway, just wanted to offer that. So I'll stop there. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Mahan. As you were speaking about that, it dawned on me that, we really do have some great opportunities now with the governor's announced budget that is really emphasizing high density development, and with a lot of state money to offset those infrastructure costs that I know are a huge challenge for high rise and mid-rise builders in places like downtown, where we have very high water tables and they have a lot of infrastructure costs to deal with, pumping water, et cetera. And so it really is an opportunity for us. I know we've got huge staffing shortfalls in PBCE, but if there was ever a moment when just an extra push from the city could result in a lot of long-term benefit, as we think about how we can transform an empty parking lot into a tower with 250 residents that will be producing, we'll add $400 million to the assessed value of our rent rolls or our tax rolls. I think that is an extraordinary opportunity for us economically if we can take advantage of that. So I appreciate your point very much, which was around, hey, let's invest in those kinds of areas of the city like PBC. We know that will deliver the dollars that we critically need for the basic services, for the after-school programs, for police response, everything else that we need. Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Okay, I really appreciate the very thorough presentation. Thanks to Jim and team for all that you're doing and all that you will be doing over the next several weeks, because we know it's going to be like every spring. It's always a challenging one in the budget office. So I hope you guys get some sleep.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, all, Mayor.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
want to also extend my thanks again to the Mayor and City Council and the Budget Office team and the rest of the workforce that helps deliver these services on a day-to-day basis and are so involved in the budget process. We will absolutely take this feedback into consideration, and as we continue to improve the budget process, our minds are already thinking about changes, meaningful changes that potentially get made. We will certainly discuss those behind the scenes and hopefully you'll see some marked improvements during this budget process. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. Thanks to everyone for your hard work. Nora, I just wanted to check in, or Tony, I'm trying to remember study sessions. Do we have open forum?
Mayor,
Okay.
let me check the agenda.
Tony has trouble unmuting, but no, the public comment that we had earlier, the public comment.
Okay.
And
All
it's not agendized.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. With that, then the meeting's adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Stay healthy.
Thanks all.